he looked like the Loma of old. The shoulder surgery clearly was a good move for him, and he looks like he could still go out there and win world titles. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So Nick, Lomachenko returned with a bang last night, defeating the 6-foot-tall Japanese fighter Nakatani. A very, very tough game fighter. His only loss leading into last night was against the person that Loma just lost to in Teofimo Lopez. Loma won this fight in emphatic fashion, getting a TKO in the 9th round and was 59% on his accuracy for punching. That's almost unheard of in boxing. He looked like the Loma of old. The shoulder surgery clearly was a good move for him, and he looks like he could still go out there and win world titles.
Yeah, I'm so glad the boxing world has Lomachenko back and active and eager to compete again soon. You know, he wants to get back in there right after this. It's just a thing of beauty when you watch him compete. He does things differently. And, you know, some people will say, you know, at one point he was the pound-for-pound greatest boxer in the world. And, you know, now that he suffered his loss, people will say, you know, he's not even in the top 5. But skill for skill, it's hard to find somebody that is as special as Lomachenko. The things he does in the ring, the way he can get to the blind side of his opponents and score shots, and he smothers them, and they literally are you can watch his opponents looking around trying to find him, and they can't find him. And he's literally like their shadow. He's like moving all around him. He's not behind him, but he's next to him. And it's a true thing of beauty. It's something that everybody that's into combat sports should watch and admire. And I feel like even if you don't know the first thing about boxing, if you don't know if they fight in a circle or a square, you can watch that and see that what he's doing is special and different from most boxers.
And it's very interesting because his father had him go. His father's mentored him his whole career, almost 400 amateur wins, only 1 loss. Pretty much unheard of, possibly the greatest amateur boxer of all time.
In my opinion.
But, you know, having him take a year or several years off and do traditional Ukrainian-style dancing to work on his footwork, I mean, you can see that paying off even in his 30s. And last night, I mean, his footwork and his movement and his elusiveness was so on display. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Nakatani who is substantially taller than Lomachenko. He's 6 feet tall. It's funny, at the weigh-ins, Loma even grabbed his shoulders and kind of was like, you got to come down here. You're in the stratosphere. I'm still on Earth. But just a beautiful performance, a statement win. And the thing about Lomachenko is a lot of people were quick to discredit him after he lost a very close fight to Teofimo Lopez. And all I'll say to that is, yes, Teofimo was absolutely the better man that night, and the judges got that one right. However, I think Teofimo's still a very young guy, still in his early 20s. By the time his career's over, he's going to be fighting, and he builds into that frame. He's going to be fighting at 147,
for sure,
possibly 154. Lomachenko is done growing. Lomachenko is a 126, 130 frame. Because he's so skilled, he's going up to 135, going up to 140, competing against these people and challenging himself to try to get these big name fights. And I think when you have to put some perspective around that, because the size differential by the time that Teofimo and Loma are done with their careers, and then the size differential that was on display last night with Nakatani shows that Lomachenko can really cover some ground with his skill and make up for some of those size disparities. Nobody in the crowd was happier for the win last night than Teofimo Sr. He went crazy. I don't know what that was about, but apparently he wants the rematch. Now Loma, this is a statement for Loma, and you can't do what we call boxing math where you knocked this guy out in the 9th round and you took him to decision, so I'm better than you ipso facto. It doesn't work that way. No. Another fight between Loma and Teofimo could be on the horizon, but, getting a solid TKO finish over a guy that Teofimo went the distance with at least reinvigorates some excitement around a potential rematch between Loma and Lopez.
Yeah, and, we have to give some credit to Nakatani because that guy is absolutely tougher than an old leather boot.
That is for sure.
He didn't he's literally too tough for his own good. I think that some of those punches were rocking his head so far back that he just couldn't be knocked out. I don't think that he could have been slept, and maybe that's why Teofimo couldn't finish him. You see just how tough he is, and so for Lomachenko to get the TKO over him was really impressive, because I didn't realize they made humans quite as tough as Nakatani, but it seems that out in Japan they're making some pretty tough guys. That guy is very impressive. Such a big body. He knows how to use his range, which speaks to just how successful and how skilled Lomachenko is at getting inside. He can get inside, he gets under you, and then he comes up with jabs and twos and shots over the top, but they come from down under, which is very interesting. It's something that probably a lot of fighters don't get many looks at in the gym. They don't get to see that very often, because he's kind of like an Israel Adesanya or somebody where you can't really bring somebody in to your training camp that fights like him. It's hard to find somebody that does that. So Lomachenko is doing things that nobody else is doing in the world, and I know he suffered that loss, but if Teofimo's family is looking forward to it, Lomachenko is clamoring for a rematch. Hopefully boxing doesn't get in the way and they can get these guys back in there, because if Lomachenko fights Teofimo the way he fought last night in the rematch, we're going to have an even closer match than we had the first time.
Yeah, and I think it's still very competitive. And I think that what you look for in a great fighter is correcting their mistakes, owning up to them, admitting them, and then correcting them. And what we saw last night with Lomachenko is he started very slow against Lopez.
Yeah.
The second half of that fight was extremely competitive. The first half, not so much. It was kind of just Teofimo with the range and the quickness, popping that hard jab. And I think he was very respectful of the real power that Teofimo possesses.
Right.
But in this return fight, he said, look, I'm coming out of the gate, and I'm coming with some pressure, with some intensity, and some volume right away. And he did that, and he set the tone for the fight. He hurt Nakatani early. He dictated the pace of that fight from the very beginning. And so it looks to me like he has learned a lot and improved a lot since the Lopez fight.
Yeah, and Nakatani, we were talking about how tough he is. He got hit pretty much in every single round with shots that would have knocked somebody else out. They would have knocked a different boxer out, or they would have TKO'd him, or they wouldn't have answered the bell, or they wouldn't have answered the standing 8 count. He's just so tough that Lomachenko was like, man, I'm hitting him with literally knockout blows in every single round. And that was really impressive for me, because usually you see a couple of really great moments in a boxing match, but for Lomachenko to rinse and repeat these great, essentially 10-8 rounds. I don't know if we'll go that far. Boxing and MMA have different judging, but if you have that dominant of a round in MMA, where we come from, you'll probably get a 10-8 round on those scorecards. And I think that some of those would warrant 10-8 rounds, but he just kept doing it over and over and over again, and eventually it was too much for the big Japanese fighter to handle. But I think the ref stepping in was the right thing to do. I don't think we needed to see Nakatani take any more damage. And you could tell in his corner they were wondering, should we maybe call it, not answer this next round? And then he'd show us a little bit of something, and just enough to keep himself just safe enough to get back out there and do one more round. So I'm glad that the corner had their finger on the pulse of that situation, and they let it go the length that it did. But I would have been a little bit frustrated if they would have let him go one more round after the way that 9th round was going down.
For sure, yeah. The stoppage came at the right time. And as you said, every time you thought he was almost done, and you're like, oh, the corner's probably, you could tell in their faces, they're kind of considering stopping this, because this has now become sort of an unwinnable situation. Right. You're not going to clip Lomachenko with something you can barely see. He's busted your eyes up. The doctors were looking at his eyes. How much vision do you have right now?
Down 9 rounds.
Right, you're down 9 rounds. Who knows if any of those were 10-8s? So you start to get realistic, and the old adage that you pull your fighter out of there once you realize that they no longer have any chance of winning, and the chance of getting seriously hurt goes up. As a good coach, that's the right time to call it. But every time that would be close to the case, Nakatani would come out and have a decent round. He would throw a few shots and hit Loma with a couple shots. And even though Loma probably won the rounds, they were close. And so it's like, okay, well, I guess the guy earned himself another round. But the stoppage came at the right time. As with Mario Barrios, Nakatani's stock went up last night in my book. I'm going to watch everything he does from now on. Glad to see Lomachenko back. I think that he's really something special. And again, if he just wanted to hang out at 126 and 130, I think he could just go on ridiculous win streaks and collect all the belts. But he does dare to be great. He goes up to 135. He goes up to 140. And so we'll see where it goes from there. But one thing I love about Lomachenko, and not just Lomachenko, but Tank, Devin Haney, all the rest of the guys in this weight division, they want to get it on, and they want to get it on now. So I think this is a really nice breath of fresh air for boxing, and I think there's a plethora of fun boxing matches that could be made for Lomachenko, including Tank Davis, who also had a great win last night.
Yeah, I think the schedule's lined up perfectly, so you can have those hypothetical conversations come this week where we talk about maybe how a fight between those two would look. But Lomachenko is a young man, right? In the world of boxing, he's a little bit older than some of the guys that are currently running the sport, but he showed us and showed those youngsters, not so fast. I'm not out of here yet. You can't just put me out to pasture right now. I'm coming back. I'm going to probably, compete and take some of those belts from you guys. Teofimo, watch out. Tank, watch out. Haney, Ryan Garcia.
And if you don't think that you can lose to an old man, just ask Keith Thurman about that Manny Pacquiao fight.
Right. Manny Pacquiao's still in the mix. Yeah. So I think that once they all figure out whether it's 135 or 140, or they figure out who's going to hold the belts and what weight class and all that stuff, we're going to see some amazing fights. And this is kind of a golden era for boxing fans and for boxing in general, because we always talk about like the four horsemen from back in the day, or you talk about Muhammad Ali's day where he had some really great
Frazier, those amazing trilogies.
Exactly.
And all. Yeah.
What we have right now is like 5 or 6 really good guys that are up and comers, or they're already established like Lomachenko. And what we have to do is just get them in there as many different combinations and ways as we can, because we're guaranteed to see gold, and we'll look back on this moment in boxing history and be really happy with how it went down.
And we didn't even mention Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson.
You know what I mean? It just the list is so deep right now at these weight classes that I just cannot wait for the next 5 years to transpire in these weight divisions, I'll say.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thanks so much for watching our video. Let us know, were you impressed with Lomachenko's return win with the new shoulder against Nakatani last night? And do you think it would line up well for him to fight Tank? They'll both sort of be on the same schedule here. So let us know in the comments. We love chatting with you guys there. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, a like, comment, and subscribe is much appreciated. See you in the next one, guys.
Peace.